As the escort for Lenny tonight, one of the truly legends of the sport of basketball, considered by many the greatest player that ever played the game, Oscar Robertson.
Thank you, Billy. I want to first say congratulations to K.C. Jones and Pop Gates. Now, Pop doesn't know this, but many years ago when he played with the Harlem Globetrotters, I used to go in the locker room. I used to learn the tricks of the trade, through my legs and behind my back. My coach would not let me play like that. But really, that meant a lot to me to go in there to see those guys play because they were really heroes to us then. I'm pleased and honored to be here this evening, I should say, to have the opportunity to present Leonard R. Wilkens for his induction to the Basketball Hall of Fame. I've known Lenny since college. Throughout his career, he's been a class person in every respect, an ardent student of the game, and deservedly so. Lenny attended Boys High School in Brooklyn. Upon his graduation, he entered Providence College. He had an outstanding career at Providence, as was said a few minutes ago. He started his pro career with the St. Louis Hawks in 1960, I believe, the same year I started, and they are now in Atlanta. Lenny played many years, and there were a lot of questions about Lenny. They said he couldn't go to the right. He said his size would be a problem for him. And really, I was talking to Paul Seamer earlier, he said he almost got fired because he drafted you. But all those questions were answered, folks, believe me. Lenny played in a lot of basketball games and averaged well over 16 points a game. And appeared in many postseason games. As Zelmo said a moment ago, he was a heady, smart athlete on the court, a true assist man. And I think the real ability of a true assist man is to make other players better than they really are. And Lenny was very adept at doing this. And really, the ultimate, as a true professional basketball player, he was consistent throughout his career. Lenny has gone into coaching since 1970 with the Seattle Supersonics. And wherever he's been, as a player or coach, he's always been a winner. He's currently coaching now with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He took them from a mediocre team to the top of the heap. And on behalf of the class of 1960, I'm more than happy to welcome Lenny Wilkens and his wife, Merlin, because she's part of it, to the Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much, Oscar. President Bushka, ladies and gentlemen, Hall of Famees, Pop Gates, K.C. Jones. It is with mixed emotions that I am here tonight. But after having been here for a couple of days, or since last night when I came in and ran into some friends, I never really dreamed that I would be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Now that I'm here, the magnitude of this event is really staggering. I have to thank a number of people because I feel an honor such as this should be shared with all the people who have touched my life along the way. I have to thank my mother, who raised 5 of us by herself as we were growing up in Brooklyn, helped to keep me on the right track. I mean, I was afraid to not go in the right direction because she prayed every day. And when someone prays every day, you never know what's going to happen. But God must have been listening to her, because He sent someone who became a very dear friend of mine over the years and has been a true inspiration to me and has been a very close friend of my family, Father Mannion. And I'm certainly there were many of us who grew up in the Brooklyn Bedford-Stuyvesant section who have much to be thankful for and owe a great debt of gratitude to Father Mannion. And many of those people are here tonight, and believe me, I'm honored that they have come. when I had a chance to go to Providence College, it wasn't as many athletes get the opportunity. There weren't scouts breaking the door down to give me a scholarship because I only played a half a year high school ball. And Father Mannion and a very close friend of mine by the name of Tommy Davis insisted that I go out for the high school team in my senior year. And to my surprise, I made the starting five. And the coach of that team was a guy by the name of Mickey Fisher, who to me was the smartest man that I've ever met in basketball. And what I learned from him in a half a year has withstood me all this time. But the funny story about Providence College was that when Coach Joe Mullaney came down to New York to see the PSAL championship in New York, Father Mannion had written to the athletic director at Providence College telling him about me. And when Joe came down, he was very polite, but he didn't see me play and really couldn't, just go on somebody's say-so. And toward the end of the year, because I wasn't playing, he gave me a catalog for the school. I filled out an application, sent it in, never heard from anybody. One time, at that time, it was legal to have tryouts, and they had about, Joe had about 200 kids, it seemed to me at the time. Maybe it was less, but it seemed like 200 come out to Chaminade High School in Long Island. And I went out there with them. We ran up and down the court. I couldn't believe that anyone could judge talent with that group we had. And I still didn't hear from the school. And then I played in a postseason basketball tournament for high school athletes. It was the Flushing YMCA tournament. And the two favorite teams, the Dan Palmer's All-Stars and the New York Gems, had all of the high school All-Americans on those teams. And myself and a couple other players got up our own team, and we won the tournament. I was fortunate to get 35 points in the game, and Joe Mullaney's dad was at the game. And he wrote to Joe and sent a clipping and said, "This can't be the same kid that wants to go to Providence College." So I really have Joe's dad to thank also. But there are many people who I'd like to thank. And of course, up at Providence College, there were people who I met who gave me a home away from home. People such as the Lemurs, the Lopes, the McLeans, and a family that became very, very close to me, Vi and Ralph Parry, who are here tonight. And there's a number of stories that go along with these people, and I won't bore you with all of them, but I'd like to touch some because they've come here tonight, and I feel they share in this honor. When I decided to play pro ball, not having seen very much of the game, I didn't get a chance to go to St. Louis, so they sent Ed McCauley up to talk to me. And I was probably the most naive person about professional basketball. And Ed McCauley came up and we talked, and I signed a contract with the St. Louis Hawks for $8,000. Ed packed his bag and ran out of the hotel back to St. Louis as fast as he could. But the very next year, after one season with the Hawks, at that time, and a lot of the players from that era know this, when they negotiate a contract, they always wanted to start with either $500 or $1,000 or $2,000. And I felt after signing for $8,000, and we played for the championship that year, the next year I wanted $16,000. And of course, Ben Kerner couldn't believe it. And so when we were talking, he just couldn't believe it. And I didn't know what to do. I hadn't had any experience negotiating. So I called these friends of mine, the Parrys. And Ralph was out, Vi was at home, his wife. And I explained my dilemma. And she said to me, Well, if they don't give you what you want, come on home. So I went back in and I told Ben Kerner, it's $16,000 or forget it. And he asked me, he said, well, who did you talk to on the telephone? So I said, well, some friends of mine. He says, what do they know about basketball? And I said, nothing. He scratched his head. He couldn't believe it, but they did sign me to the $16,000. Certainly, there were other people who came into my life, another family, Gloria and Shelley Kaplan, who've been a big part and have been close friends over the years. And of course, it was Gloria Kaplan who felt that I could make pro ball and not Shelley. But Shelley's the one who's here tonight, and I'm real pleased about that. It's amazing how you go through this life and so many people have a part of what you do. There's a group of people here from Brooklyn, friends, and it would take too much time to mention all their names, but there's one who was a coach who also had a great deal of influence on me, a fellow by the name of Zeke Clemens. And he really inspired me to be as good as I could be. After my first year of pro ball, I had to go into the service because I was in ROTC for a year and a half. And while I was in the service, I met a group of young men who were young officers like myself. And they made the time really bearable because I really wanted to get out and get back to play with the St. Louis Hawks. I had my taste of pro ball, and I had enjoyed it. And this group is here also tonight, and it really honors me. You may not know where they're sitting, but if you listen, you'll hear a friend of mine by the name of Yancey Martin. If he hasn't already introduced himself to you, you'll hear him before the night's over. God has always, I felt, smiled on me. And when you go through life, there are ups and downs, there are hard times, good times, you know, successes, failures. All of that is a part of life. But as I said, he continued to smile. And he gave me my hero. He gave me the wind beneath my sails, my wife, Marilyn. She and my children have been a constant support through all the years, and I feel very lucky. Last but not least, I am enjoying being with the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are a fun team. They're a young team. They're outstanding human beings. And I feel very fortunate to work with the group that I'm working with. My assistant coaches, Dick Helm, Brian Winters, my general manager, Wayne Embry, and our director of player personnel, Gary Fitzsimmons. It is said that the highest tribute that we can pay to one another as human beings are two. One, that one lays down one's life for another, and the other is to honor him. And you have honored me tonight, and it is something that I will cherish the rest of my life. Thank you very much.